we are going to answer this question before us. It's saying sketch y is equal to 2 sine x plus pi on 3 minus the square root of 3 for x is an element of negative pi to 2 pi. Okay, so what makes this interesting is that we have both a horizontal translation and a vertical translation. So if we can just picture this for a moment, so you don't have to write this down, but just to roughly understand what's going on here, we have a sine graph, and I'm taking that sine graph and I'm moving it pi on 3 back, oh, if it will let me grab it, pi on 3 back, and then down the square root of 3. So it's going to be there, and then I also have to make sure that it extends back to negative pi and goes forward to 2 pi. So that's generally what I'm doing there. So it's good just to have a bit of a visual before we dive into it of what we're actually doing. But let's now get stuck into the nitty-gritty of it. So we're going to find the amplitude, which will be 2. We're going to find the period. Remember, you find the period by going 2 pi over the coefficient of x, which in this case is just 1, so it's 2 pi. And then we will also figure out what the scale is. Now, normally the scale isn't that important when you've got a vertical translation, but it's still important to get it just in case you need to use it. So we're going to go 2 pi, the period, divided by 4, so it will be pi on 2. All right, the next thing that we're going to have to find here is just figure out where we're going to start sketching. So this isn't where the graph is starting, but this is just where I'm going to start sketching. And to do this, what you do is you just take this, so in this case, x plus pi on 3. So we take it and we set it equal to 0. So that means I'm going to start at negative pi on 3. All right, we keep on going here. The next thing that I'm going to do is find where my x-intercepts are going to occur, which is going to be y is equal to 0. All right, so to do that, what I'm going to do is set it equal to 0. So it's 2 sine of x plus pi on 3 minus the square root of 3. Now, this is just solving trigonometric equations now. So I'm going to rearrange this, and that's going to give me this right here. And now I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, all right, my domain is pi, negative pi to 2 pi. Perfect. What would x plus the pi on 3 have to be equal to? So what would the degree have to be equal to in order for sine to give me out the square root of 3 on 2? And after a bit of thinking, hopefully you realize that it's going to have to be pi on 3, isn't it? Because sine of pi on 3 gives me the square root of 3 on 2. And then where else, what other sign would I need? So you might want to think of your unit circle here for a second. So I'm thinking there, I'm up here. So it's going to be my first and second quadrants. That's where it's going to occur. So my second quadrant would be 2 pi on 3. And then we also need to go back negative pi, don't we? We have to go back negative pi. Now, if I go back negative pi, so I'm going back this way, do you see how I'm actually not going to get any answers there? They don't exist there because there's nothing, no angle that I could put in here that would give me a result of the square root of 3 on 2. So I don't actually have to worry about them. My domain is fulfilled without putting any numbers there because they don't exist. All right, then once I've done that, I need to get x by itself. So that means I'm going to plus pi on 3. I'm going to plus pi on 3. I'm going to plus pi on 3. Oh, sorry, minus, my bad. Why am I plussing it? I'm minusing it because it's plus there. Okay, so that's 0, and this is going to be pi on 3 there. Perfect. So I found my 2 x-intercepts, which is fantastic. All right, now what I need to do is I need to figure out where this graph is starting and where it's ending. So let's come over here. And will I have enough room? I think I will. So the graph is going to start when x is equal to negative pi, right? That's where the graph is going to start. So if I come over here for a second and just consider this, the graph is going to start when x is equal to negative pi. So I'm going to take my graph, y is equal to 2 sine of negative pi plus pi on 3 minus the square root of 3. Okay, boy, these questions are fiddly. All right, y is equal to 2 sine this is going to become negative 2 pi on 3 minus pi, negative square root of 3. When I have a negative with a sign, I can take it out. So it's going to be negative 2 sine of 2 pi on 3 minus the square root of 3. Now, sine of 2 pi on 3, I know that that's simply in the second quadrant where sine is positive, so that's fine. And pi on 3 just gives me the square root of 3 on 2, as we saw before. So that's going to be the square root of 3, that's such an ugly 3, the square root of 3 on 2 minus the square root of 3. Okay, that would cancel with that, which means I'm going to end up with minus the square root of 3 minus the square root of 3. So it's going to be y is equal to minus 2 the square root of 3. So that is where my graph is starting from. That's the start point. So in other words, it's starting when I've got negative pi and then negative 2. That's the coordinates for which it's starting at. Was that time consuming? Yes. Yes, it was. Okay. Once we've done that, we also need to figure out where this thing is ending. To figure out where it ends, we need to sub in 2 pi. Okay. Now, where will I have room? Hopefully you guys have a bit more room than me. I'm going to come, I might just go off the page a bit. Hopefully you guys are all right with spacing. All right, so where is this going to end? It's going to end when x is equal to 2 pi. This isn't going to be as time consuming as the other one. We'll be able to do it a little bit quicker. So I'm going to go y is equal to 2 sine of 2 pi plus pi on 3 minus the square root of 3. Immediately, we recognize that we can just ignore that 2 pi because that's just like going a full circle around, isn't it? So it's just this. We know that sine of pi on 3 is the square root of 3 on 2 minus the square root of 3. That will cancel with that. I'm going to end up with the square root of 3 minus the square root of 3, which is just 0. So that means I'm going to end this thing at 2 pi 0. Okay. We have a lot of information here, don't we? A lot of information, but good information. So we have our x-intercepts, we have where we're going to end, where we're going to start, we have our amplitude, we have our period, we have where we're going to start sketching, so that's not where it's beginning, but where we're just going to start the sketch. We have all this information. We're going to take a second to breathe, and then we're going to sketch this thing.